The Shadow Protocol. The stars disappeared one by one, not with a flash or a fade, but with precision, as if someone was carefully erasing them from existence. On the bridge of the U.S. Phantom, Commander Elena Rodriguez watched the main display as her ship's revolutionary shadow drive engaged, bending light and reality around the vessel's hull. Shadow field stabilizing at 98%. Lieutenant Marcus Wong reported from his station, his voice steady despite the unprecedented nature of what they were attempting. Quantum matrices are holding. Elena nodded, her dark eyes fixed on the readings scrolling across her neural interface. The Phantom was humanity's answer to a question no one had thought to ask. What if invisibility wasn't about hiding, but about becoming one with the darkness itself? The ship represented 6 years of work, billions in resources, and mankind's most closely guarded secret. But they had run out of time for testing. The Nexus Collective had seen to that when their probe ships appeared at the edge of Sol system 3 months ago. Status of the Nexus Patrol? Elena asked, though she already knew the answer. The alien ships had been following the same route for weeks, methodically mapping human space with their quantum sensors. 3 vessels, maintaining standard search pattern, reported Lieutenant Sarah Chen, their sensor specialist. Her hands moved gracefully over the holographic controls, adjusting the passive scanning array. They haven't detected any change in our position. That was the point, after all. The shadow drive didn't just bend light around the ship. It merged the Phantom with the quantum shadows that existed between spaces. Theory suggested they were now technically occupying multiple realities at once, though Elena tried not to think too hard about that part. "Begin Phase 2, she ordered. "Take us closer. Let's see just how blind they really are." The Phantom moved silently through space, its revolutionary engines producing no heat, no radiation, nothing that could betray their presence. As they closed in on the alien patrol, Elena studied their targets with a mixture of curiosity and concern. The Nexus ships were beautiful in their way, crystalline structures that seemed to grow rather than be built, pulsing with internal energy that made them look alive. That beauty masked their deadly nature. The first human colony they'd encountered had learned it the hard way. 500 kilometers and closing, Marcus announced. Shadow field maintaining integrity. Elena felt a slight tingling at the base of her skull, the neural interface registering the increased strain on the shadow drive. Dr. Chen's theory suggested they could maintain this state indefinitely, but theory and practice were often very different things in deep space. "Commander," Sarah's voice carried an edge of excitement, "I'm getting unprecedented readings from their quantum cores. The shadow field is letting us see details our normal sensors never could." "Record everything," Elena ordered. "This is our first real look at their technology." She paused, considering their next move. They had achieved their primary objective, proving the shadow drive worked against Nexus sensors. The prudent thing would be to withdraw now. But Elena hadn't gotten this command by being prudent. "Take us between them," she ordered. 100 kilometers separation. She heard the sharp intake of breath from several bridge crew members, but noted with pride that no one questioned the order. The Phantom glided between the alien vessels like a ghost passing through walls. 50 kilometers to nearest vessel, Marcus reported. "Their active scanning beams are passing right through us." Elena stood from her command chair, walking to the main viewport. The Nexus ships loomed above and below them, close enough that she could make out individual details of their crystalline structure. One errant twitch of their position, one fluctuation in the shadow field, and they would be discovered. The tingling at the base of her skull intensified. The neural interface was warning her that the shadow drive was experiencing unexpected fluctuations. Not dangerous yet, but concerning. "Commander," Sarah's voice was tight with controlled urgency. "I'm detecting power spikes in both vessels. They're preparing to jump to FTL. Hold position," Elena ordered. This was another test. How would the shadow field interact with the distortion of a nearby FTL jump? The Nexus ships began to glow from within, their crystalline structures resonating as they prepared to tear a hole in space. The tingling in Alina's skull became a sharp pain. Shadow field destabilizing, Marcus called out. The FTL distortion is affecting the quantum matrices. Alina gripped the railing as reality seemed to twist around them. Through the viewport, she saw space itself bend and distort. The shadow drive was interacting with the alien FTL field in ways they hadn't predicted. Full power to field stabilizers, she ordered. Route everything we've got through the quantum cores. For a moment, it seemed like the ship itself was going to tear apart as multiple realities competed for dominance. Then, just as suddenly as it began, everything snapped back to normal. The Nexus ships vanished into FTL, leaving them alone in normal space. Report, Alina demanded, fighting back a wave of nausea from the neural interface feedback. Shadow field stabilizing, Marcus reported, his voice shaky. All systems returning to nominal. But Commander, you need to see this. Alina looked at the main display and felt her breath catch, where they had been occupying a single point in spacetime. Sensors now showed echo readings of the Phantom across multiple positions, as if the ship existed in several places simultaneously. The interaction with their FTL field, Sarah explained, her fingers flying over the controls. It didn't just destabilize the shadow field. It evolved it somehow. We're not just hiding in the quantum shadows anymore. We're becoming them. Alina stared at the readings, her mind racing with the implications. They had come to test a stealth system and accidentally discovered something far more significant. The shadow drive wasn't just a way to hide. It was a doorway to understanding the very nature of reality itself. Send all data back to command, she ordered, but encrypt it using the new quantum protocols. What we just discovered, she paused, choosing her words carefully. The Nexus Collective can never know we have this capability, not until we understand it ourselves. As the Phantom turned for home, Alina watched the echo readings of their ship slowly converge back into a single point in spacetime. They had come seeking a way to hide from humanity's enemies. Instead, they had found a way to rewrite the rules of existence itself. The real question now was, were they ready for what that meant? The ghost in the machine. The quantum research lab beneath Geneva hummed with energy as Dr. Sarah Chen reviewed the data from the Phantom's encounter for the 100th time. The holographic display showed the complex wave patterns of the shadow drive's interaction with the Nexus ship's FTL field, a dance of probability and possibility that shouldn't have been possible. It's not just copying itself, she muttered, manipulating the display with practiced gestures. The ship is actually existing in multiple states simultaneously. Behind her, Admiral James Harrison watched with a mixture of fascination and concern. Can you replicate it? He asked, his weathered face illuminated by the shifting patterns of quantum data. Sarah zoomed in on a particular sequence, where the shadow drive's field had first begun to fragment. That's the interesting part. We don't have to replicate it. The drive is doing it on its own now. Every time we activate it, the effect gets stronger, more refined. It's like, she paused, searching for the right words. It's like the technology is evolving. The Admiral's expression darkened. You're saying it's becoming sentient? No, not sentient. More like instinctive. The quantum matrices are learning from each interaction, adapting their behavior to be more efficient. She pulled up another display, showing the shadow drive's performance metrics over time. Look at the energy consumption curve. It's dropping with each activation, but the effect is getting stronger. Before Harrison could respond, an alarm blared through the facility. Sarah's hands flew over the controls, pulling up the emergency broadcast. The color drained from her face as she read the message. Nexus ships, she whispered. A full battle fleet just appeared in the Arcturus system. They're heading straight for the colony. Harrison was already moving, pulling out his secure communicator. How long until they reach Arcturus Prime? At their current speed, less than 48 hours. Sarah's mind raced through calculations. The Phantom can't get there in time, not even at maximum FTL. No, Harrison agreed, but we're not sending just the Phantom. He activated his communicator. This is Admiral Harrison. Initiate Protocol Ghost. I repeat, initiate Protocol Ghost. Authorization Delta 79. Sarah's eyes widened as she realized what he meant. The prototype ships, but they haven't been tested. We don't know if the shadow drive modifications will work on a larger scale. We're out of options. Harrison's voice was grim. The Nexus fleet outguns anything we could send conventionally. If we can't stop them at Arcturus, Earth is next. 12 hours later, Sarah stood in the Phantom's engine room, her hands deep in the quantum core's control systems. Around her, engineering crews worked frantically to implement the modifications she'd developed based on the accident's data. The core temperature is rising. Lieutenant Wong reported from his station. We're pushing way beyond safety margins. Keep it steady, Sarah ordered, making another adjustment. The matrices need to align perfectly, or the resonance will tear the ship apart when we activate the drive. Commander Rodriguez's voice came over the intercom. Dr. Chen, we need that drive online. The fleet is ready to jump. Sarah checked the final calculations one more time. They were attempting something unprecedented, coordinating a shadow drive jump across 12 ships simultaneously. The quantum echoes they'd discovered would either multiply their effectiveness or destroy them all. Drive is online, she reported, closing the access panel. But Commander, you need to know something. The modifications, they're not just about hiding anymore. If this works the way I think it will, we're about to change the nature of space combat forever. Explain. Elena's voice was tense. A shadow drive doesn't just bend reality around us. It creates possibilities. Multiple versions of the ship existing simultaneously. If we can control it, coordinate it across the fleet. Sarah took a deep breath. We could be everywhere and nowhere at once. A ghost fleet that can strike from a dozen realities simultaneously. There was a long pause before Elena responded. Are you saying we could be in multiple places at the same time? In theory. But the psychological impact on the crews. Experiencing multiple realities simultaneously. I don't know what it will do to us. We're about to find out. Elena replied. All ships, prepare for synchronized jump. Shadow drives to full power on my mark. Sarah felt the familiar tingling at the base of her skull as the neural interface connected her to the ship's systems. Around her, the quantum core pulsed with increasing intensity, its light taking on an otherworldly quality. Mark. The universe seemed to hold its breath. Then, reality itself began to fragment. Sarah watched in awe as the quantum readings spiked, showing not just one phantom, but dozens, hundreds, each existing in its own slice of probability. The neural interface flooded her mind with information from multiple timelines simultaneously. Through the confusion, she heard Elena's voice, somehow steady despite the reality-bending forces at work around them. Ghost Fleet, stay together. We have a colony to save and a message to send to the Nexus Collective. Today, they learn that humanity isn't just hiding in the shadows anymore. We've become them. As the fleet accelerated to FTL, Sarah realized they had crossed a line. The shadow drive wasn't just a technological advancement. It was an evolutionary leap for humanity. The question wasn't whether they could save Arcturus Prime anymore. The question was, what would they become in the process? Darkness rising. The Arcturus system blazed with weapons fire as the Nexus fleet approached the colony world. 30 crystalline warships moved in perfect formation, their quantum sensors probing the space ahead for any sign of resistance. They found none. At least none that they could understand. In the command center of Arcturus Prime, Governor Maya Patel watched the tactical display with growing unease. Where is the Ghost Fleet? They should have arrived by now. As if in answer to her question, reality rippled. The space between the Nexus ships seemed to darken, as if the stars themselves were being selectively extinguished. On the Phantom's bridge, Commander Rodriguez felt the familiar sensation of existing in multiple places at once as the shadow drive engaged. "All ships, maintain quantum sync," she ordered, her voice echoing strangely through the neural interface. "Remember your training. Don't fight the multiple perspectives. Let them flow through you." The Ghost Fleet materialized like a nightmare made real, 12 ships appearing simultaneously from dozens of different probability streams. Each vessel existed in multiple states at once, creating a web of quantum shadows that confused both sensors and the naked eye. On the nearest Nexus ship, alarms blared as their sensors tried to make sense of what they were seeing. Their quantum cores, the very technology that made their civilization possible, were reporting impossible readings. According to their instruments, they were surrounded by hundreds of human vessels, each one both there and not there, real and unreal simultaneously. "Shadow drive stable across all vessels," Sarah reported from engineering, her voice tense with concentration. "Quantum matrices are holding. The probability field it's working better than we predicted. The Nexus ship's own quantum technology is amplifying our effect." Elena allowed herself a small smile. "Begin Phase 2. Let's show them what ghosts can do." The Ghost Fleet moved with impossible grace, each ship leaving quantum echoes in its wake. When the Nexus vessels fired, their weapons passed harmlessly through probability shadows, while the real ships struck from unexpected angles. It was like trying to fight smoke with a sword. But the Nexus Collective hadn't conquered half the galaxy by giving up easily. Their ships began to adapt, their crystalline structures pulsing with new patterns as they attempted to counter the shadow drive's effects. "They're trying to destabilize our quantum fields," Sarah warned, her hands flying over the controls. "Their cores are generating some kind of coherence wave. They're trying to force us into a single reality state." Elena felt the pressure through her neural interface, the sensation of multiple realities trying to collapse into one. "Counter it. Route more power to the quantum matrices." "Commander," Marcus called out, his voice trained. "The shadow drive. It's doing something new. The quantum echoes aren't just defensive anymore. They're reaching out." On the tactical display, Elena watched in amazement as tendrils of quantum darkness extended from the Ghost Fleet's probability shadows. Where they touched the Nexus ships, the crystalline vessel's own quantum cores began to resonate in strange ways. "Their technology operates on similar principles to ours," Sarah explained, her voice filled with sudden understanding. "The shadow drive isn't just hiding us anymore. It's interfacing with their systems. We're not just becoming the shadows, we're teaching them how to be shadows too." The effect spread through the Nexus fleet like a virus. Ship after ship began to generate their own quantum echoes, their reality state becoming uncertain. Elena watched as the alien vessels started to fade in and out of existence, their crews struggling to maintain control of technology they no longer fully understood. "This wasn't supposed to be possible," Sarah whispered. "The shadow drive it's rewriting their quantum programming, teaching their ships to exist in multiple states just like ours. But they don't have the neural interfaces to handle it. Their crews can't." She didn't need to finish the sentence. The Nexus fleet was tearing itself apart, not through violence, but through enlightenment. Their ships weren't being destroyed. They were transcending, pulled into a state of quantum uncertainty their crews couldn't comprehend. "All ships, pull back," Elena ordered. "Maintain the quantum field but do not engage further. Let them choose." One by one, the Nexus vessels began to retreat, their once perfect formation now chaotic and uncertain. They fled not from defeat, but from a fundamental change in their understanding of reality. The shadow drive hadn't just defended Arcturus Prime. It had shown the Nexus Collective a truth they weren't ready to face. As the alien fleet disappeared into FTL, Elena turned to Sarah. "What exactly did we do to them?" Sarah stared at the quantum readings, her expression a mixture of awe and concern. "We showed them what they could become. Their quantum technology was already on the edge of what we achieved with the shadow drive. We just pushed them over that edge. But without the proper interfaces, without the preparation we had. She looked up at Alina. We may have just changed their entire civilization. Or started something we can't control, Alina added quietly. If their ships can now generate quantum shadows of their own. The implications hung in the air like a physical presence. They had saved Arcturus Prime, but in doing so, they might have initiated a transformation that would affect both humanity and the Nexus Collective in ways they couldn't predict. As the Ghost Fleet regrouped, Alina couldn't shake the feeling that the real battle hadn't ended. It had only just begun. The shadows were spreading, and no one, human or alien, could say for certain what would emerge from the darkness. Eclipse Point. 3 weeks after the Battle of Arcturus Prime, the quantum monitoring station at Echo Base detected something impossible. Deep in the void between star systems, where no ships should have been, reality itself was unraveling. Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the assembled Admiralty in Earth's Central Command, her holographic presentation showing a region of space that seemed to flicker in and out of existence. The Nexus ships we encountered aren't just copying our shadow drive technology, she explained. They're evolving it in ways we never anticipated. Admiral Harrison leaned forward, his expression grave. Are you saying they've improved on our design? Not exactly. Sarah manipulated the display, zooming in on energy readings that defied conventional physics. They're taking a different approach, where we use neural interfaces to maintain conscious control over our quantum states. They're letting go. Their ships are entering a state of pure quantum flux, existing everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. And the crews? Someone asked. Sarah's expression darkened. That's the concerning part. We're detecting quantum patterns consistent with consciousness, but they're dispersed. It's as if the crews have merged with their ships, becoming one with the quantum shadows themselves. Commander Rodriguez, attending via secure quantum link from the Phantom, spoke up. How many ships are we talking about? We're not sure, Sarah admitted. The readings suggest anywhere from 50 to 500 vessels, but in their current state, those numbers don't have the same meaning anymore. They exist as probabilities rather than certainties. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. They had created the shadow drive as a defensive technology, a way to hide from superior forces. Instead, they had triggered an evolutionary leap in their enemies that no one had predicted. There's more, Sarah continued, her voice tight. We're detecting similar quantum distortions near every major Nexus fleet concentration. The effect is spreading. Those ships that retreated from Arcturus Prime, they're teaching others. The entire collective is beginning to change. Admiral Harrison stood, his decision already made. Commander Rodriguez, your orders are to take the Ghost Fleet to Echo Base immediately. Dr. Chen, you'll accompany them. If the Nexus ships are evolving our technology, we need to understand how and why. 20 hours later, the Ghost Fleet emerged from FTL near Echo Base. The scene that greeted them defied description. The void between stars had become a tapestry of quantum shadows, areas where reality itself seemed to fold and unfold like cosmic origami. Multiple contacts, Marcus reported from his sensor station. But they're unlike anything we've seen before. The Nexus ships, they're beautiful, Sarah whispered. Through the Phantom's viewport, they could see the transformed Nexus vessels. Their crystalline structures now pulsed with dark energy, each ship leaving trails of quantum possibilities in its wake. They moved like schools of fish in an ocean of probability, their formation shifting and flowing in patterns that seemed both random and perfectly coordinated. They're trying to communicate, Sarah announced suddenly, studying the quantum readings. These patterns in the probability field, they're not random. It's a language. Helena felt a strange sensation through her neural interface, as if something vast and alien was reaching out to touch her consciousness. Can we respond? I think. Sarah's hands flew over the controls. Yes, their quantum signatures are compatible with our shadow drive. We can use it to establish a connection. But she hesitated. Commander, if we do this, we'll be opening ourselves to whatever they've become. Elena looked at her crew, seeing the same mix of fear and determination in their eyes that she felt herself. They had come seeking answers, but those answers might change them forever. Do it, she ordered. The shadow drive engaged, but instead of hiding them, it created a bridge across quantum states. Elena felt her consciousness expand, touching minds that existed in multiple realities simultaneously. The experience was overwhelming, like trying to comprehend infinity through a kaleidoscope. Through the quantum link, understanding flowed. The Nexus ships hadn't been destroyed by their exposure to the shadow drive. They had been transformed. Their rigid, hierarchical civilization had discovered something they had never known they were missing: the freedom to exist in uncertainty, to be many things at once rather than a single defined entity. But that freedom came with a price. As the quantum shadows spread through their fleet, the line between ship and crew, between individual and collective, was blurring. They were becoming something new, something that existed between the boundaries of known physics. "They're not attacking," Sarah reported, her voice filled with wonder. "They're inviting us to join them, to take the next step in evolution." Elena felt the pull of that invitation through the quantum link, the promise of transcendence, of existing beyond the limitations of normal spacetime. Part of her wanted to accept, to let go and become one with the quantum shadows. But another part of her, the part that remembered what it meant to be human, resisted. Dr. Chen and the connection. All ships, power down shadow drives to minimum. As the quantum bridge faded, Elena looked at her crew. They all showed signs of the experience, a new awareness in their eyes, as if they had glimpsed something both wonderful and terrible. "Send a message to command," she ordered. Tell them we're not just fighting a war anymore. We're facing a choice about what humanity will become, and we need to make that choice before it's made for us." Outside the viewport, the transformed Nexus ships continued their quantum dance, a reminder that some technological genies, once released, could never be put back in their bottles. The shadow drive had worked better than anyone had imagined, and that might prove to be either humanity's salvation or its ultimate transformation. Dawn's edge. The emergency session of Earth's Security Council stretched into its third hour. The chamber's holographic displays showed a galaxy being rewritten by quantum shadows as more Nexus ships transformed with each passing day. "We're running out of time," Admiral Harrison stated, his voice echoing through the chamber. "The quantum effect is spreading faster than we predicted. Within months, the entire Nexus collective will be transformed." Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the assembled leaders, her latest simulations painting a stark picture of their future. "The choice before us isn't just about military strategy anymore. The shadow drive. It's become a doorway to the next stage of evolution. The Nexus ships aren't our enemies now. They're our harbingers." The council chamber erupted in heated debate. Some argued for immediately shutting down all shadow drive research. Others pushed for full integration with the new technology. The future of human civilization hung in the balance. Commander Elena Rodriguez, attending via quantum link from the Phantom, watched the debate with growing concern. Through her neural interface, she could feel the shadow drive's quiet pulse, a reminder of the power they had unleashed. "Dr. Chen," she interrupted, her voice cutting through the chaos. "You said the Nexus ships were our harbingers. What exactly are they harboring?" Sarah manipulated the holographic display, showing the latest quantum readings from Echo Base. "They've achieved what we theorized but never dared to attempt: complete quantum integration. Their consciousness exists across multiple realities simultaneously. They're not just using the technology anymore. They've become one with it. And they want us to join them," Elena added, remembering the strange invitation they had received. "Yes, but..." Sarah hesitated. "There's something we discovered in the latest data. The transformed Nexus ships, they're not just existing in quantum flux. They're creating something. A new layer of reality, existing between normal space and the quantum shadows. The chamber fell silent as a new hologram appeared, a vast, dark structure taking shape in the void between stars. It pulsed with familiar quantum energy, but on a scale that dwarfed anything they had seen before. "They're building a bridge," Sarah explained. "A permanent connection between normal space and quantum space. If completed, it won't just affect their ships, it will transform the very nature of reality in this sector of the galaxy." Admiral Harrison leaned forward. "How long?" 2 weeks, maybe less. Once it's active, the quantum effect will spread exponentially. Everything within range, ships, stations, even planets, will be drawn into a state of quantum flux. "Can we stop it?" Sarah shook her head. "Not with conventional weapons. The structure exists partially in quantum space. We could destroy its physical form, but its quantum signature would remain. Then we use the shadow drive," Elena said firmly. "Not to fight them, but to understand them, to find a third option." 12 hours later, the Ghost fleet assembled near Echo Base. Every ship had been upgraded with Sarah's latest modifications to the shadow drive. They weren't preparing for battle. They were preparing for transcendence. "Remember," Elena addressed her crew and the fleet, "our goal isn't to destroy the bridge or stop the transformation. We're going to guide it. Humanity won't be forced into evolution. We'll choose our own path." The shadow drives engaged simultaneously, pushing the fleet into a deeper quantum state than ever before. Elena felt her consciousness expand, touching the minds of her crew. Then the other ships. Then something vast and alien and beautiful. The transformed Nexus ships were waiting for them, their quantum signatures pulsing in greeting. Through the neural interface, Elena finally understood what they had become. Not monsters or gods, but explorers who had found a door to a larger universe. "Now," she ordered. The Ghost fleet moved as one, their shadow drives linking together in a carefully choreographed quantum dance. They weren't fighting the transformation. They were shaping it, using their unique human perspective to forge a new path. Sarah's voice came through the quantum link, filled with wonder. "It's working. The bridge. We're not just connecting normal space to quantum space. We're creating something new. A space where both states can exist together." Elena felt it through her neural interface, a new layer of reality taking shape around them. Not the complete transcendence the Nexus ships had chosen, but not the limitations of normal space either. A perfect balance between certainty and possibility. The bridge pulsed with new energy as the Ghost fleet's influence spread through its quantum structure. The transformed Nexus ships responded, their own quantum signatures adapting to the change. They had sought to guide humanity's evolution, but instead, humanity had shown them a different way. "All ships, maintain position," Elena ordered. "Let it stabilize." Hours passed as the new reality consolidated around them. When it was done, the bridge had become something different from its original design. Not a force for universal transformation, but a gateway of choice. In the aftermath, as the Ghost fleet returned to normal space, Elena stood at her viewport watching the bridge pulse with its newfound purpose. Ships could pass through it to experience quantum transcendence, or remain in normal space, or exist somewhere in between. Like humanity's Ghost fleet, balancing on the edge between realities. "We did it," Sarah's voice was quiet with awe. "We found a way to preserve who we are, while still embracing what we could become." Elena nodded, feeling the familiar touch of the neural interface, now carrying echoes of quantum possibilities. "That's what humans do best," she said. "We don't just adapt to change. We shape it. We find paths that no one else imagined could exist." The transformed Nexus ships danced around the bridge, their quantum signatures singing with new understanding. They had sought to guide humanity into transcendence, but humanity had shown them something more valuable: the power of choice, of finding balance between evolution and identity. As the Ghost fleet set course for home, Elena reflected on their journey. They had created the shadow drive to hide from their enemies, only to discover it was a key to something greater. Not an ending or a transformation, but a beginning. A door opening to possibilities that neither human nor alien had dreamed possible. The quantum shadows still flickered at the edges of reality, but they were no longer something to fear. They were a reminder that the universe was larger and stranger than anyone had imagined, and humanity's greatest strength was not in conquering it, but in finding new ways to understand it. The stars seemed brighter somehow, as if illuminated not just by their own light, but by the infinite possibilities that now lay before them. The shadow drive had shown them the darkness between realities, but in doing so, it had helped them find their own light.